his response to like outcry and the straw manning of saying that they're so crazy by sending me death threats, but no, this is actually his response to a more general dissatisfaction with what it's doing to the show, and his response was, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
I'll just do more. And his response is, I will keep making changes just to spite you and upset you.
You're a fan of this thing and I've changed it, and you really, really, really don't like that? Yeah, I'm changing it more.
Yeah.
How dare you? I'm in charge of this now. This thing, this man's entire life work that millions of people love, no, it's mine. You racist and bigot.
Like, but look how full-on despicable and bigger that shows him to be, right?
Yeah.
And he is just willing to piss on the Wheel of Time, so many important elements of it, for his own spite and agenda. That's how despicable this
is. That evil? I feel like that's evil.
I feel that's evil.
Yeah, that's evil. So I bought this cup the other day, right?
You did?
Like
yes.
Top Gun.
Yes.
I just saw Top Gun. I thought, hey, Top Gun's cool. I like Tom Cruise. I just noticed this morning, because you know me, right? I have what's called ADHD.
Yes.
And I take amphetamine for that. What's the common word for amphetamine?
I don't know.
Speed. And on the back of the cup, I just realised it says, I have a need for speed. And I thought,
that is medically correct for you.
And that's what you call a synchronicity.
Where the fate just comes.
Fate's just.
It's completely unrelated to the video.
Just
topic.
reminds you you're retarded. I love it. Yeah. Anyway, something to remind us that the world's retarded is today's topic.
We will get into it. Let's do the drop.
How many bloody doctors are you going to keep away with that?
Welcome back to The Watch. And okay, so, Wheel of Time TV show updates. Now, so, Wheel of Time, the TV show.
Yeah.
It's an interesting kind of thing. I'm a mega fan, and Oz is becoming a mega fan.
I'm becoming a mega
of
fan.
the books.
Yep. Wait, you're a mega fan of the shows and the books?
No.
No? But you said you're becoming a mega fan of the books.
Of the
you didn't clarify for yourself.
Yeah, I know. I'm a mega fan of the books.
Okay.
And we have done in-depth reviews of every episode of Season 1 of the TV show, and it is an awful, awful TV show.
Oh, yeah, man. But for anyone who doesn't know, how can we, sum it up that's bad?
Oh, well, this is the thing. It's bad on its own merit, separate from the books. It has nonsensical plot development, character arcs, implementation of magic and world building, completely contradictory in some areas, and it's just a frustrating, badly executed show that looks low budget and everything. If you have any knowledge of the books, then it becomes legitimately insulting, as an adaptive work, but it goes further than that. It goes actually offensively bad in certain areas where they were toting this line that, look, the books are so big, we're going to have to cut stuff to just condense it, to fit everything in.
Yeah.
And then the show comes along, and not only that was completely untrue. They cut huge portions of the book
Didn't need to be cut.
to not just fit in other things in the book. No, they cut things from the book to create their own crap.
Yep.
Their own made-up fanfic, bad fic, right? They introduced new characters in some instances, everything like that. And what they injected into it was laden with personal bias and ideology and all these things, and it was also horribly executed. And that's when I got legitimately pissed, because if they had any respect for the source material, there were so many good scenes that they could have used.
I know. I witnessed a lot of them.
Yeah. You've now finished book 1, haven't you, Oz?
Yeah.
And
So, book 1 was great. They ruined Tom's sacrifice. They ruined all of the, not paranoia, but what would you call it? Not paranoia, but they're being hunted. And it's not like, they just managed to escape Emmons Field and Shadar Logoth. And all of a sudden, oh, okay, we're in the water now, we're clear, right? No, they're getting hunted 24/7 from every single angle.
And it's desperate, and it's
terrifying.
Dangerous, and they have to...
Yeah, and also, it gives us more characterization of the boys, because especially Matt and Rand, Like, they're trekking through towns and villages, and they're stopping at inns, like, trying to, they're doing bustling for room and food, and, like, every time they go into a place, they're like, okay, anyone in here a dark friend? We hope not.
And they run into a lot, though.
They run into a lot of dark friends, and, oh man, and it finally, the culmination of that little arc of them going around to places with them finding that farmer who takes them to the city, that was literally like, dude, I fell asleep with them, like, when he's just, like, listening to this guy go on and on. He's like, oh. That was such a good book, man.
It was a great, great book, right?
Yeah.
And so, they had the hubris and disrespect to cut massive portions of the story to just inject their own. And they honestly believe that their own made-up stories within a world that they're appropriating was better than the source material, otherwise why'd they do it, right? And it just goes to show you that they had no idea how, like, untalented they really are, because they actually thought they could improve upon a work that's so great. And that's when I got legitimately pissed. And then there were moments that were just sheer desecrations to the lore, the characters, the story, right? Which goes to show me, like, they don't care. Not only do they not, like, love the source material, which you should, I feel they don't care, but then it goes further to they actively despise certain elements. And when I say despise, they feel certain elements are problematic. This is all a preamble, right, to another sign. Like, who could have seen this coming, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did the second I saw the tweet saying it's a feminist thing. Now, I know, once you explain to me, this is how the Wheel of Time system world works, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not. But then I saw the trailer, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is... and then I tried to tell you,
I wanted to give the show every benefit of the doubt, and
Fair
I
enough.
did.
Fair
You can
enough.
watch our views.
Fair enough.
Our reviews.
But you didn't do that for Halo, and neither did I.
Well,
I'm still in pain.
I was burnt from it, from Wheel of Time, and how bad it was. Is that now I won't be giving anyone the benefit of the doubt.
But that's my point. My point is that even if you did, you followed my advice, you'd still be in pain, just like I am for the Halo show, and I knew that was going to suck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the casting of Avienda, because this one in particular, so Avienda is a very prominent character in Wheel of Time. She comes in a bit later, so you haven't run into Avienda yet. But unlike many other characters, Avienda has distinct visual identifiers that make you identify the character, essentially. Now, we've already said multiple times on Night's Watch that the key thing about a character is the primary visual identifiers to make you feel like you're looking at the character, and sometimes that isn't tied to skin color.
Yeah.
Like, Nick Fury is a great example. The key thing about Nick Fury is his eye patch, his presence and everything like that. And so the race change on Nick Fury didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And it really felt like Nick Fury still. But if you got rid of the eye patch, who the hell is this character suddenly?
Michael Clarke Duncan with Kingpin. He's an incredible actor. Rest in peace to him.
But there are some characters whose main visual indicators are tied to their skin color, to the point that if you were to change the source material, the skin color of the original character, it would be very difficult to even realize who is this character.
Yep.
And so, classic examples are maybe like Little Mermaid. It's tied with redheads, I think, a lot, because if you have really strong red hair, just ethnically, you're going to have pretty pale skin.
Yeah, imagine if they made all of the Weasleys.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. In Harry Potter, that would actually make sense. One, because there's a lot of them. They're really poor. Oh, man. That was a joke, okay?
That's horrible.
That was a joke.
But if you reverse it, alright, I can change the skin tone of certain established black characters, like Blade or... Black Panther, right?
Johnson. Oh, imagine if I had a joke that in the Halo TV show, they'd have Johnson, but it would be played by Ken Jeong. Or an Indian guy or something like that.
And we would object just as much. And I'm a purist when it comes to the books, right? And so I would get annoyed if they changed the color of a roof that was distinctly described as a certain color in the books. I would get annoyed at that. And so it doesn't take... I want to see the world. What?
There's a post. It's like what do you call it? Polar bears according to Netflix. It was just a brown bear. Or like snow according to Netflix. It was cold.
So I want to see the world depicted in a live action adaptation. That's part of the joy of doing it. And this is only set dressing stuff, right? But you still want to see the world. But there are vastly deeper, even more offensive changes that they've done, like with the way the magic system works, in a big way. Because the magic system in the Wheel of Time is gendered, specifically. And they went out of their way to not even mention that nature, and that has fundamental significance to who the dragon is, because men, the male side of the power, people go insane when they channel the power.
It's cursed.
It's cursed. That is really important. They don't even mention. They just say, when men who channel go crazy, they don't mention why, that it's the male side that's cursed specifically. And the male side name isn't even mentioned except in translation in one other scene. That's when they're speaking another language. Like, well, it was the Dark One.
Now I'm thinking, right, if they're going to change anyone to be a black character,
It would be the Dark One.
it'd be the Dark One. That's in his name.
Well, on that note, right, Robert Jordan, when he wanted people to visualize something very distinctly, he was clear in his descriptions. When it didn't matter, he used other language and stuff like that. But one phrase that he uses often is to describe people as dark. But oftentimes it's referring to dark of hair and dark of eyes. And there are specific references we'll be able to bring up to prove that as well. But a lot of people are trying to say they were described as dark, and then therefore they must be black or dark skinned.
Well, that's not true, because like think about all the dark friends in the show. They're called dark.
Yeah.
They can't all be black. That'd be racist.
Yeah.
What would he be implying?
But
there?
when Robert Jordan wanted to describe it, like, so people, it was impossible to miss their skin tone, he would mention it, like the Atha Anmier, they're the sea folk, they're the sailors, right?
That's all the sea ladies.
Like, I'm not sure you've come across the Atha Anmier.
At the end of Wheel of Time, season 1, they were there. Remember that the big wave?
No, that was different. That was the Shonchan.
Shonchan, and you don't like them.
I actually don't like the Shonchan because they're antagonists, and it's established you shouldn't like them. Like,
okay.
Like, if you know anything about the Shonchan, you wouldn't like them, okay? But no, the sea folk, the Athanmier, are a culture of sailors, and they're all dark-skinned. It's very clear, very specific, you can't miss it.
Okay.
But then there are other characters that, it's actually kind of ambiguous, and we're going to bring it up because there is a character perceived to have dark skin, and I double-checked all the references before doing this video, and it's ambiguous. In actual fact, there's a phrase which implies that she doesn't have dark skin. When I read the books, I thought this character didn't have dark skin because of this description. It's so ambiguous, I have less of an issue with it, okay? It's in those characters, fine, because the visual identifiers wasn't tied to a skin colour.
Yeah.
If you know Wheel of Time, I'm talking about Tuon. We'll talk about Tuon in a bit. But there are other characters in which their visual descriptions are very bloody specific, okay? Because it's tied to culture and a racial background that is distinct and significant, and this is where we come to Avienda, and this is where it is just another sign that the people who are making this show actively despise the source material.
Yeah.
They thought many things were problematic, they wanted to vilify and belittle many of the male characters and inflate the female characters, and this is just blatant. You watch the first season, you know it. Okay?
Well, it's not just the source material that offends them. It's like reality offends them. You know, like the basics of like you know how like what's it called, race works in like a given locale, and then you know how it changes across time. Like but also that offends them. How men and women naturally interact a lot. Yeah.
This was one of the greatest, celebrated things about the Wheel of Time was how Robert Jordan wrote gender. Men and women, how they interact, how they relate, how they grow in relationships, how they clash, and how they then also overcome and work together. Gendered, stereotypes really are an essential part of the Wheel of Time. Well, the creators who are currently doing the show, they find those elements problematic.
Yep.
They despise those elements and then go out of the way to subvert them. And in other ways, then they go to, like, Wheel of Time is a story about men and women needing to learn to work together, essentially. If you want to really, simplify many of the overarching elements. But in the show, they are belittling men everywhere.
Yep.
And they're putting them at further odds than what was in the book. Because in the book, there are misogynist or misandrist men and women. Women who hate men for just being men, and men who look down on women, okay? That was a part of the story, but then there are other characters who are not, and those ones in the show have also been subverted in things.
And also, one thing they didn't get right, which, just reveals Rafe Judkins' bias, is there was that Water who they wasted 2 episodes on that wasn't in the books, who was like, you know what, Lan, I think I might do the gay a little bit.
Yeah.
And then when Rand went to sleep, he obviously thought about it a bit longer and looked at Rand and thought, you know what, I'll kill myself instead.
Look at Lan.
Yeah, look at Lan, sorry.
Yeah, and he decided to kill himself instead of try. Now, we have a commentary on that, then you can watch our review about it, because if they did that to a gay guy, where a gay guy was just like, I suppose I could try this straight, people would find that incredibly homophobic.
Yeah, probably.
Climate. But if you do it to a straight person...
Well, I think it says more about them being homophobic than us, because they thought the character himself, they put this in.
Yeah, they put this in.
You know what? This guy thinks about being gay and instead decides to kill himself.
To commit suicide.
That's homophobic.
It really sounds like he does that.
You could just not do it.
Yeah.
Why? If you fear being penetrated, then don't penetrate. Anyway, that's the thing.
Alright, so now we come to Avienda, okay? Well, we came to it before. The Aiel, there is important plot in the story for the Aiel to have their specific racial, ethnic look, okay? You find out that in the first season, and look, this is minor spoilers for the books if you haven't read it, but like if you've already seen first season of the show as well, you should be aware of this, that Rand has a different appearance than the people where he comes from. Okay? And his appearance is fair skin with reddish hair. Now, or brighter coloured fair hair. Red is a very, very common one. Ginger, basically. That's really important because it has very significant implications about his origin. Alright? And for any of that plot to work properly, the Aiel need to be depicted very distinctly, because the Aiel, Rand is mistaken in the first book as an Aielman.
Yes, he's mistaken as an Aielman.
As an Aielman.
Well, look, can we just be dropped? Yeah. Like, it's pretty clear that he's an Aielman.
It is.
By like halfway through the first book.
Exactly. This isn't a bit major spoiler. Rand is ethnically Aiel. So for that to work, the Aiel need to have a pretty distinct ethnic background.
Yeah, or a distinct look. Yeah.
A distinct look. And it's hugely consistent in the books. This is beyond doubt. So they have been doing race swaps in Wheel of Time massively to a disrespectful level in my mind, because we want the book to reflect what it is.
Yeah.
And any of the defense about what the two rivers are supposed to look like is false. We've looked at that. If you look at our video, The Issues of Wheel of Time, we address it in more detail with references from the books. And the book's are actually pretty clear about these characters' ethnic background, their skin tone and colour and things like that. And we do not have an issue or care about the fact that these are white characters being switched to black. We would have as much issue if these were black characters being switched to white. And this is where we'll bring up, like, again, the Atha Anmier, the Sea Folk. I would, like, I'll be going, what are you doing? The Sea Folk are supposed to be dark-skinned. Don't friggin' change the source material.
Yeah.
Bloody pisses me off.
There's a book series called The Black Company that I really loved. I read a while back, and there's a fair amount of black characters in that, but like there's an entire two or maybe even 4 books where they're in the same place, which is like the racial makeup is like Arabian, and then they've got an entire like separate part of their company that they were all black, and they came in and joined them. And like if they change any of that, or there was it Goblin and One Eye, the 2 company wizards, 2 really old folk who are just like these black hilarious characters. If they change any of that, I'd be pissed, because that's what I see when I hear them talk and hear stories about them.
One of the primary protagonists in my own novel, this one right here,
Arik,
is dark-skinned. His name is Arik. He is not African, because Africans don't exist in this book, neither do white people. These are different people in a fantasy universe, and so there should be no kind of, you need representation of these ethnicities. And this is the same with Wheel of Time. These ethnicities, the real world ones don't exist, okay? But there are dark-skinned people with their own cultural background, as there are white-skinned people. And, like, I will say, I've been clear about it, I'll say it now, the appearance of the characters should never change. If there's any adaptation, they should look as close as possible to the description in the book. Now, Arik, his background is really important because he is a Turasian by you know, his ethnicity, but he wasn't raised as one. And there's important contrast in the book that he doesn't behave like a normal Turasian, even though he appears like one.
Was Cusack a Turasian?
Yeah, Cusack is another Turasian who is very culturally Turasian, and his cultural background, the cultural background that's tied with the Turasians, is essential for the development of another character and how she interacts with it, which is Lyra. These are really important things, and you would subvert all these important cultural things and how this culture is supposed to appear and interact if you just decide, oh, I'll change whatever they look like and things like that. So, out of any, like, people tried to argue that you could justify the changes with the two rivers. And that failed when you go to a deeper reading. But there was enough ambiguity for people to really try and argue it, that you cannot get away with that with the Ideal. The Ideal, it's beyond any doubt at all,
yeah,
right?
They seem very isolationist.
They're isolated, they have very distinct background, you get to learn about their history and their development, and the descriptions are all very consistent, very clear, and because one of the primary characters who represent the Ideal in the book is Avienda, she needs to look like that to really give a feel for this culture. Robert Jordan is on record with saying that Avienda basically looks like Rand's cousin. They are so similar in complexion and appearance.
They're not cousins, though.
They're not actual cousins, no.
That'd be weird, wouldn't it?
And it's so clear that Rand has pale skin. Like, there are multiple times in the books where it's just like pale skin. And so this is, you can't argue it, right?
In the Night's Watch live-action television series, they should make my character black, so that way everything I say is no longer racist.
That serves an interesting utility in the plot, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So the fact that they'd be willing to make they want to make this change. And this is what we need to. It shouldn't come to any shock to anyone. They don't care about the source material. They actively despise it, and they will change it for their own agendas. And this is true, because when you ask why did they make the change, it is not for finding a great actor. You can find a great actor of any ethnic background, okay?
Yep.
And so people say, oh, they just found the right actor who hit the line so perfectly.
They keep trying to use that one. They keep trying to use it.
That's bullcrap. Absolute bullcrap, because there are so many insanely talented actors. In fact, there's it's oversaturated with the amount of people wanting to be actors. And if you just look, even amongst not the high-paid amounts, because I've never heard of this actress before. In fact, very few out of the actors in Wheel of Time I've ever heard of before, so they're obviously looking in the unknown areas where there's more pools to find from. You could have easily, or just as easily as this this actress, found one that more distinctly fitted the look. Absolutely, they could have.
Well, I mean, you know,
and that was talented and hit the things out of the park. Because this is the thing, the performances in some of the people that have already cast is already a bit. Like, Egwene, I'm not liking her performance. She's snooty and everything like that. And they could have found someone who could hit those lines and make the character more likable. They could have found an actress hit those more easily. In the
books, she's a very... she's a bit of an enigma for me in the books. I can't really make up my mind about her. Like, I like her character, like Nynaeve in the books. Very easy to understand that character. Yeah. But Egwene is much more difficult for me to understand. You know, that's why she's interesting.
But also, there's even people who are massive fans of the books that don't like Egwene.
Really?
So I can understand.
Like her.
There's such a mix of characters that you have, you can dislike characters strongly and still love the whole books because the books are so great and you get so much from it.
Perrin and Matt are my favourites so far. I love Perrin, I love Matt.
Perrin was probably my favourite.
And what's your guy's name again? Loyal, of course.
Loyal is just...
Loyal. There's just so many. There's too many great ones. Too many.
Mm-hmm. And so it just always raises that same question, like, why would they make this change? And then people say, oh, it won't ruin the show. It's like, it ruins the appearance, the depiction of what the show is meant to be, okay? And they're trying to make their own vision, which means they don't respect the source material at all, and they're being driven by their own agenda. These are really despicable things that they're doing to the Wheel of Time.
You've heard the old, you've obviously heard the skin suit from Carl. You've heard they use it as a vehicle I think the vehicle works more, because essentially, imagine like a beautiful Mustang, right? What they've done is they've bought this because people love the Mustang. They've opened up the hood, and they've ripped everything out about it that made it a Mustang, and as well as a bunch of panels, and they put their own crap in there, and then they turn the key and find that it doesn't run, because it's not the same thing. It's completely different, and screw you.
So, it's funny, the creators of this show are trying to gaslight people to say that this show is massively popular, and it's not.
No.
Barely anyone is talking about it, especially anyone of prominence online, okay? There's only a couple of people with somewhat sizable channels. When I say couple, really, it's that few.
One of them's us.
One of them's us.
We have like 80,000 subs.
We're not huge.
Yeah.
Okay? None of the big, players, like reviewers online and on YouTube.
Did Angry Joe even watch Wheel of Time?
I don't even think so.
Ah.
I didn't see a review of Jeremy Johns. I didn't like, and it's not getting much talk about at all.
Chris Stockman gave it 10 out of 10. I'm kidding.
Because the first season sucked.
Oh yeah, man.
It was really just crap. It was a crap, poorly done show. We are sticking to it because I'm a massive fan of the books, and I do not want to let them get away with the crap they're doing, disrespecting the source material and Robert Jordan's legacy.
Yeah, it's like suffering builds character. We want to build that character watching this show.
And I think we're one of the few people. There are some others, okay, and we know who you are. We appreciate you. We're one of the few people who are actually giving a voice to the disrespect they're showing, because the people who have latched onto this show are the ones who love the agenda and message behind it.
Yeah, but that's
so
the
much
thing.
So that if you criticize a show on any grounds, you're a bigot, you're a misogynist, you're all the things, and especially on Reddit, they were just banning anyone who would just raise the most tepid criticism of the show, unrelated to casting or anything, just like the writing is bad, banned.
But that's the thing, is they don't love the content. They just love the fact that this is the culture war and this is one of their weapons.
Yes.
It's like, in 10 years' time, do you think anyone's going to be going back and like binging Will one season at a time?
Not a chance.
No. Yeah, they won't. Just like the Halo show, just like every other crap thing that they gut and then stuff, guts from a different, animal inside of it. Mm-hmm. And then sew it back up
It
and
will be
expect it to live.
forgotten and only remembered as a great failure and subversive, insulting desecration of the great Wheel of Time book series.
But the book series will always be there and will be there for 100 years.
Yeah, but the tragic thing, this is one of the more tragic things about Wheel of Time specifically, is that it is really ruining its chances of getting a better adaptation, at least for another 15, 20 years.
That's
right?
why we've got to start, killing Disney and becoming powerful ourselves, and then we do it ourselves.
Because I do not get as heartbroken over what's happening to, say, Lord of the Rings than what's happened to Wheel of Time, because the movies, it has a glorious live-action adaptation. Wheel of Time doesn't.
Yeah.
And because of this, probably won't for a very long time, and the desecration just continues. They will subvert and undermine so many great things about the show. The characters, there are so many offensive things, right? One of the big offensive things is when they take a great character who's noble, got all these great characters, and make them despicable, horrible people.
Yep.
Matt is the biggest example in season 1. They desecrate Matt's character to a disgusting degree. Tom, they do it. They do it with Moraine as well.
Oh man. Boy, do they do it with Moraine. Dude.
They make Egwene a dislikable, really dislikable, awful person.
And inconsistent, too.
Yes, inconsistent. They make Perrin
a weak little bitch.
All these characters are such great characters.
Yeah.
And we nearly got the whole list that they're just making them awful. The closest character that they did in season 1 was Nynaeve, but even she is horribly inconsistent, and especially with her power application, but she's the only one who had some decent similarity.
Lan too. Everyone.
Lan was he's a different character. Lan doesn't exist in this series, right? And they changed all these things. There are so many examples in our reviews where we point out a change and they say, why did they do it? Because we have a direct point of comparison of another scene in the book that would have been just as easy to do. It wasn't long. It would be easily small enough to just switch. You have the blueprint, and that they didn't do that. And then why did they do it? And it's so easy to point out the exact reasons why.
Why?
For ideology, for their agenda.
Yeah, but more broadly, they do it because they want to destroy Western society.
They have an issue, with Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's literally at the fundamental
Traditional
level.
values and everything.
Yeah, you know, the Christian society that we were brought up in that is like the best to ever exist. They want that gone.
Yeah. And look, if you want to look at gender roles, look at how men are depicted in the show, all these things.
You think they'd settle for being in charge of it, which is what they're on now, but they're like, you know what? Let's destroy it. Oh yeah, okay, great plan.
Then there are even moments in the show when they will go out of their way so much that they will do unbelievably dumb, nonsensical things in the plot to achieve their agenda.
Yep.
There's this moment when finally Perrin might have actually gotten a significant victory, a moment of bravery and strength, where he breaks free and he could have saved Egwene and done something really cool. But they couldn't have that. They couldn't have a man save a woman. That would be insulting. So they literally let Egwene teleport out of her bindings, no reason given, and give her the victory over Perrin, making Perrin look horribly weak, making the scene laughably dumb, because they're that ingrained in their agenda.
And making the White Cloaks look like pussies.
Yeah,
Meant to be the badass villains.
That was unbelievably dumb. Like, there is astounding stupidity in this show.
Also, they completely ruined the whole Wolf Brother storyline. That Wolf Brother storyline was awesome.
It was great.
You got to imagine them being able to really clearly and awesomely characterize wolves.
Yeah, and how great would it have been for Perrin to actually have that scene where he killed the White Cloaks? And that's a really important... It's cut from the show. It would have been really important for the larger story of Perrin's arc.
Yeah. And there was an awesome scene where one of the White Cloaks who's interrogating him and wants them dead because they're dragging him along, like, hey, you know, what if I just drop this little sharp rock here and you just get out of here, you know? And the whole... and Perrin's thinking like, okay, so would they really just let us go, or are they more likely to, when I try to get free, they'll kill us? And like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to leave the rock there then. And like, that was awesome, because he goes over it and...
shows him being intelligent.
Yeah.
The contrast between the quality of the show and books is just night and day. Yeah, like, it's astounding. Now, other reason why they're doing this is for spite.
Oh.
Like, it's on Rafe Judkins, the showrunner of this show, specifically said, now, it was, the whole context is that he was getting death threats. First, show us the things, because people say this just to get attention nowadays. They really do.
Yeah.
They like to play the victim and be the martyrs and all that stuff. And so if there's any claim of such horrible things, show us.
Yep.
Screenshot it. Okay, it's not hard. And people do that all the time to substantiate their claims. That's the first thing. And then in response to that, he starts to speak generally of what he does to people who dislike what's going on, okay? Because the context of that death threat was that he was getting death threats for the changes that he was making, which means he was referring to the large body of people who actually not crazy sending him death threats, okay? He was using it as a point example of the most extreme, stupid types, and if you did send death threats, you're an idiot, beyond belief. I'm not even sure that happened though, right? But he was then referring to all the people who had problems with it. And he says, I have a great way of dealing with it, and it's turn their favourite characters gay. You know, so-and-so this will make him gay and everything like that. Which is, I feel, horribly homophobic. It tokenizes gay people. It's using them as just a thing to try and weaponize against people.
Furthermore, it's probably the dumbest possible response, because he's thinking, alright, you know those assholes on the internet who say these awful things? Yeah, I'm going to validate what they say.
Exactly! I'll just prove everything that they're having an issue with, that I'm this worst, showrunner unimaginable, and butcher the source material, and his response to, outcry and the straw manning of saying that, they're so crazy by sending me death threats. But no, this is actually his response to a more general dissatisfaction with what it's doing to the show, and his response was, I'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
I'll just do more. And his response is, I will keep making changes just to spite you and upset you.
You're a fan of this thing and I've changed it, and you really, really, really don't like that? Yeah, I'm changing it more.
Yeah.
How dare you? I'm in charge of this now. This thing, this man's entire life work that millions of people love, no, it's mine. You racist and bigot.
But look how full-on despicable and bigger that shows him to be, right?
Yeah.
And he is just willing to piss on the Wheel of Time, so many important elements of it, for his own spite and agenda. That's how despicable this
is that evil? I feel like that's evil.
I feel that's evil.
Yeah, that's evil.
Like, it's so vile, right? And they're doing it. They're like, Wheel of Time season 2 is going to be an amazing dumpster fire.
Yep.
We'll be there to call out everywhere. And, like, so when we talk about Avienda, right? So we've probably brought up images of the actress already cast in this role. And now we'll bring up an image of depictions from the book. There's a bit of a difference.
There is.
You say?
I can't see it, but I know that she's Aiel.
Well, I can show you.
Let's bring it up.
Here are depictions of Avienda, right? I kind of like this one because it shows some muscle and she is a warrior. And when you bring up comparison... one of these things is not like the others.
Well, you know, they did this with the Witcher show as well. They did it with Triss, and then in season 2, they just gave her redder hair and very pale makeup. And then there's an elf queen who, in real life, she's very dark, and they gave her incredibly pale makeup.
That's the actress there,
Yeah.
okay? I mean...
She's mixed.
Compare her to her. Gee, yeah... When I see this action, that's who I think Avienda is like...
Also, there's a new trend where it's like, and I don't mean to say ugly, because they're not ugly, just they look like normal people.
Yeah, Avienda is supposed to be stunning.
Yeah.
An absolute knockout.
But the trend of just replacing, you know...
These unbelievably gorgeous characters, and it's about the heroic ideal, but also, guess what? People like watching beautiful people do awesome stuff.
Yeah.
It's one of the appeals.
Why do you think Marvel's so big? You think Marvel's big because there's a talking raccoon?
Yeah, no. They have Chris Hemsworth with his flipping top off.
It's because Scarlett Johansson's walking around wearing a skin suit.
Like, in Iron Man 2, she is a knockout.
Oh,
like,
yeah, and she literally knocks men out.
Right? But you're absolutely right. I was going to mention this as well. I'm sorry, you know, lovely person, and... this is the disconnect. People think that, no, we can't cast knockout people in these roles, like the most beautiful people we can find, because that would, teach men that they can only find attractive...
is the conventional beauty standards.
Exactly. But men, for thousands of years, but even, especially we have evidence in the modern day, even, heaps of men that enjoy watching the most beautiful people do awesome things or anything like that, they know that that's the difference between fiction and reality. And reality... You find the right woman and you fall in love with them because you fall in love with who they are. Yeah. And suddenly, no matter what their appearance, for the most part, there should be some attraction, of course. But their personality then makes them a 10 out of 10 no matter what.
But also,
we're not idiots.
Typically, people who fall within the same social, tier, they typically date within their social tier. We have a word for when they don't. It's called out of their league, right? And so we understand this as a society. You know,
she's out of my league.
Tens and nines usually hang out together. 8s and 7s. You know,
but this actress could be a lovely person, could be a horrible person. I don't know. But from some of the, people associated with the show, like Judkins, there seems to certainly be horrible people working on this thing. She could obviously do it for any number, but disassociate from that for people who want wonderful heroic tales where people are representing the heroic ideal and everything like that. She is nowhere near the top-tier knockout beauty that Avienda is supposed to look at. And there are many actresses who are, but this one, sorry, no.
I can already tell what the lefties are going to say, like, oh, what about, you're so hot? I'm like, well, no, I'm not, but I'm also not in Wheel of Time. You know?
I'm
not in Marvel.
I'm not saying cast us in this.
Yeah, cast you as Avienda. Shadvienda.
I wonder who I could pull off. I've got a beard. Maybe not a Logan. I don't think I've got the stature of Logan. Gareth Bryn. Maybe I could.
I haven't counted him yet.
He's an older guy. If I was a bit older, maybe I could do a Gareth Bryn. Maybe a Tam. I don't know.
If you add 10 years to you, you could do a Tam. 10 years and a lot more push-ups.
Yeah.
I can't talk.
I don't know. You could do it, Matt. You got the personality.
Yeah, I need to thin down a bit.
Yeah, but Matt, I reckon you could pull off a Matt.
I hope I could. I feel like I understand Matt the most.
Yeah. But obviously, you would want to cast more attractive people than us. We totally get that. It's not a horrible thing to admit that where you stand on the beauty ladder.
Dude, if I was on Wheel of Time, I'd be a jump scare every time I showed up on screen.
I could play random dark friend or swords person of some kind. Yeah, right? But, yeah, Avienda. This is a great depiction of Avienda right here. really, and this is like, I don't know what this one is.
That's a more racially mixed one.
That's a depiction of Elaine.
Which one? Oh, Elaine's a princess.
Yes, the princess.
Yeah, and she was like, it described her like she's a gorgeous knockout.
Yeah.
You know who they're going to get Elaine to play in this season?
I thought
Susan Boyle.
No, they've already cast Elaine.
Really? Let's see.
So if we go
Elaine.
And this is one of the only castings that, one of the very few castings that seem to be...
Catherine Newton. Yeah, she's pretty gorgeous.
You know, I, there was another image here. I'm not sure if that's the same one, though. I'm not sure if that's the same actress. But if that's the actress they got there, yeah, I reckon that could have been Elaine or Avienda because her hair is more red. Like,
yeah.
Elaine's supposed to have cherry blonde hair, so much, like, even that's probably too far. It should be more blonde. If you actually see what cherry blonde looks like, yeah, that's a better example. So if this is their actress they cast, yeah, that's the kind of knockout that you expect in those roles. But I mean, this isn't even mentioning how incredibly miscast Min was in season 1.
She's meant to be gorgeous, yeah, mischievous. Even her character, even the actor didn't play her that well.
Yeah, like the character in the TV show, it's not Min at all.
Yeah, she's meant to be mischievous and knowing, and you know,
doesn't act like it, doesn't look like her, and the age is way off.
Yeah,
like incredibly so. You know, that
it's like Gal Gadot.
They probably could have, right? And
there's a better one down below.
One of these things is not like the other.
The one below the green shirt.
Yeah, that's a great Min.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can see the mischievousness and.
Yep, the cheekiness, the short hair, and that's who they cast.
Yeah. She looks like Asian Moiraine from the show.
Yeah, she does.
Doesn't she?
Oh, the casting in The Wheel of Time is an absolute crap show. And the TV show we're talking about.
They're doing it for a reason.
Of course. It's on display.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it'll be interesting to see what other fans of The Wheel of Time, especially defenders of the show, say about the casting of Avienda, because this is an even great, like, a massive slap in the face.
Can I have some of your apple juice, please?
You want my apple juice?
Yes, just a little bit, thank you.
Yeah, it looks good, does it?
It does, yeah. I feel like apple juice. My mouth is dry. Thanks. Appreciate it. He shares, people. He's very generous.
That is such a great Min. That's probably one of the best Mins I've seen. Gosh.
And she just got some Game of Thrones actors.
So there'll be such. Look, this is the thing. The defences of the casting of the Emmonsfield Five, the ones that they race change and the actual origin and ethnicity of Emmonsfield. I actually broke down a lot of those arguments, and they were very, very poor. Like, you know, one of the worst arguments I've heard about, you know, the race changes and stuff is that Robert Jordan himself made a list of actors who he felt would best suit the role.
Yeah.
And guess what their racial makeups are? This is from the author, okay? And the excuse people gave to try and dismiss that was like, some of these actors don't actually accurately match certain other descriptions of the characters anyway, so you can then ignore the recommendation of all the recommendations of the author and just change whatever the hell you want. Any change that Robert Jordan felt was appropriate in the actors he picked versus the book description gives you a baseline of the changes to the level in which he felt you could push it. Did he change any of their skin tones from descriptions in the book?
Nope.
No. Okay?
And then there's times where there's times where authors do that, where it's like, oh no, Hermione's black. She was always black.
Oh.
I always intended her to be black. That's why we cast Emma Watson for 8 movies.
Oh.
And had no problem with it then. No, she was always black.
My goodness. Now, people might bring up Tuon.
Tuon?
Tuon is a character that comes in later. You'll find Tuon. If I go Tuon, she is often depicted as being black. Okay? Now, I actually wanted to confirm this because I couldn't remember her being distinctly described as black in the book. But if she was, I would fight as passionately to keep her description as accurate to the book as it is in the book. And I was going to point out, like, if Tuon is mentioned to be black, okay, how would people feel? You guys, remember how you're all about, it doesn't really matter? All right. Would you have the same opinion if character described as black was changed as white in this show, I get the feeling a lot of people know you would cry bloody outrage because most of the people who are trying to spin defense of this are flipping hypocrites when they do this, because we've already seen it. When they think a character origin, like character, right, who has a type of person of color skin tone is race changed for a new actor, they cry bloody outrage. Look what happened with Ghost in the Shell when Scarlett Johansson was cast in an Asian role. Okay,
And you know they were going to have Nick Fury. Nick Fury play her boss in that movie, but they got rid of that.
Really?
Yeah.
The amount of bloody outrage they cry when it goes in reverse. If Black Panther was changed to white, they would go nuts in terms of vitriol and hate. So this shows that it's actually not about the reasons that they're giving. They're hypocrites.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. And I want to actually even go further into some of the defenses that they spin is for diversity. Okay. And all right, if it's for diversity, they're the ones who brought this up, because in reality, I don't give a crap about the diversity in a fantasy property. If they're all white or all black, it doesn't matter spit if that's what the world was, okay? This is why I didn't have anything to say about Black Panther, but then they say it's the most diverse movie ever, when it's like one of the more homogenous movies.
Yeah, exactly. 90% black, most diverse movie ever.
It's like, if you're actually after diversity, stand up to what you're saying, you bloody hypocrites, okay?
Yeah, because they mistook diversity for no white people.
Exactly, that's what's actually happening. But in a fantasy property, diversity shouldn't matter at all, because it's a fantasy world, all right? All black, all white. But they're the ones who brought this up. And so, all right, we'll hold you to your own standards and actually see how diverse the casting is in Wheel of Time.
You know who has the most diverse world view of all? Blind people. Because all they see is blackness.
So anyway, going back to Tuon, okay, if it was without a doubt that she was supposed to be dark-skinned, all right, I would be 100% there with you. This is probably, in terms of far more description and emphasis on Tuon is given to her stature and her shape. She has a heart-shaped face with distinctly bigger eyes than a regular person and more full lips.
Oh yeah?
That's the thing. And she is very short and flat-chested. So much so that she can be easily mistaken as a boy if you don't look close enough at the... And you see a distinct feminine face. And one of the things is like... Actually, she could... I wonder if you can guess which perspective this comes from, which character. Like... You know, she'd actually be kind of pretty if she didn't look like she was trying to chew wood all the time.
That'd be Matt, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's Matt. Because Tuon is really stern and serious and everything, which actually hardens her features, but when it softens, that's when you see her feminine beauty there. But she's really short, really slight. These are all the distinct things. So much so that if you were to change these elements, like if you cast a actress who have just these huge breasts as Tuon, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I'll be outraged as well.
No, this I would, because it changes one of the key identifying visual features, and Tuon's description is all about her slightness, her build, and her skin tone is rarely ever mentioned. She is described as dark of complexion, okay?
But if they cast her as a black character, because that's not really...
Because it's not a big thing, I don't have an issue with it. Cast Tuon as black and everything like that, fine. But in terms of saying she must be black, alright, well, that's when if you're going to be really on the point about this, we go to her descriptions. And all that's ever given with Tuon is oftentimes that she is dark of complexion, and so I'll read some to you, because this is just an interesting thing about adaptation. And again, I think it'd be perfectly fine to cast her black based on these descriptions, but let's actually read the description and see if there's any explicit mention about her skin tone. And in actual fact, if you're going to be as close to the descriptions as possible, she's actually more likely got white skin.
But tell you what, man, if they cast Johnson from Halo as a white dude, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be
totally
pissed. You wouldn't hear the end of it.
That's why these people are actually hypocrites.
Yeah.
Because they'll never do it in reverse. It only ever swings one way, doesn't it? So, here's some of the descriptions of Tuon, right? She had a belt to emphasize the waist that she would not be taken for a boy in a dress. Men watched... Tuon is comparing herself to this other character, which is Seleucia. Tuan overheard some murmur about Toulousia's full breasts. Perhaps that had nothing to do with a commanding presence, but it would have been nice to possess a little more bosom. So she's actually saying she's Tuan flat-chested. That's a specific point of description. Then the other descriptions. Seated at her side was a little girl of all things, also in an elaborately flowered robe, overly pleated white skirts, but with their sheer veil covering her entire head. It seemed to be shaven completely and wearing a fortune in rubies. He had been shocked to learn she was only a few years younger than he. He would have said more like 10, and so she looks youthful. Okay, so that veiled face swiveled towards him. A pretty face, really. It might have even been beautiful if she ever stopped looking as though she was about to bite off a mouthful of wood. He no longer thought she looked like a boy. Those tight, wide belts she always wore made sure you noticed what curves there were. But she was the next thing to it. He seldom saw a grown woman younger than his grandmother that he did not at least think idly of what it would be like dancing with her, maybe kissing her, even though snobby Shonchan blood. But never a glimmer of that crossed his mind with Tuan. A woman had to have something to put their arm around, or what was the point?
This is a man after my own heart. So this is Matt thinking?
Yeah.
I really understand this person.
It's totally that. So far, no mention of her skin tone. Okay, and this one here is where we actually get, I think, a better description of her appearance. Tuan was tiny, not just short, but almost slim as a boy, and a loose-fitting dress of brown wool brought from one of the show folk made her seem a child wearing an older sister's clothes. Not at all the sort of woman he enjoyed, especially with only a few days' growth of black stubble covering her scalp. Shows she was bald before. If you ignored that, she was pretty, though, in a reserved way, with a heart-shaped face and full lips, her eyes large, dark, liquid pools of serenity.
That's a great description.
Isn't it great? No mention of skin tone. Okay? Tuan raised a peremptory hand, a black porcelain doll, but every inch a queen despite the shabby, too large dress. So that's the one that people say, she's black. But this is the thing. It didn't say a black doll. It said a black porcelain doll. And so when I read that, I heard porcelain. Porcelain is a description of being very white. You look up, Google porcelain. We'll do it right here.
Is there such thing as black porcelain?
So we'll find out.
I thought porcelain was a material, not a colour. To my understanding, porcelain is just...
Could be. But whenever I heard porcelain, I heard... So that's what I image. And so when I hear black porcelain, I picture the pattern being black on a porcelain background. I could be wrong, but that's why I always initially visualize Tuan being actually extremely fair-skinned with really dark features, dark hair, dark eyes. But if it's black porcelain, then she would be, but like black.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's what other people have taken the description on, but it's clearly ambiguous. Yeah. Enough that it confused me.
Not gonna lie though, when I hear the proportions of big eyes, large full lips, and a heart-shaped head and bald, I am thinking like
dark skin.
Like you know how sometimes on the Discovery things you see like a tribal African lady. You know, like that's the proportions that I see. I picture that.
Yeah,
it makes more
and
sense
so this other one seems to confirm that. Tuan's face was as smooth as a stern mask of dark glass.
I mean, she's starting to sound black to me.
Okay.
That's just. But then again,
but see, dark sometimes it also just refers to hair color, eye to eye.
Yeah, but look, to play.
No, perfectly fine because. Yeah. I could have just been thrown off by my misunderstanding of the description of porcelain when I was first reading.
Stern mask of dark glass mask is...
Yeah, so it's pretty... Alright, so we could... Out of anything, this is pretty strong evidence that Tuan has dark skin. Okay, if they change that then to make her white...
or just change literally anything
I wonder
else.
what people would say.
They make her a tall... They have her played by Gwendolyn Christie, the one who played Sir Lady T.
But this is the thing. If Tuan is meant to be black... She better be cast as black.
She better be really dark.
Yeah, but the creators of the show, by their standard, have shown that they don't give a stuff about the original description unless it falls in line with their views.
Even then, I think they just don't care.
They just don't care. Well, they do care, but it's about their agenda. And if something falls in line with their agenda, they will be
Yeah.
all on board. But all the descriptions, all the defenses people have been playing about the Wheel of Time characters, right? All the defenses, I mean, is trying to reference source material and everything, and all that stuff, or reference enough. This is the thing. I think I've shown enough ambiguity in Tuon's description, right? This gives the same level of justification, according to the people making this show, to change her racial appearance to white, as they have with many other characters. There are some characters where it's blatant, their description, like Avienda, and they've changed anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not about appeals to source material, they're changing. It's all about agenda. This is why the Avienda casting is so significant, because any defense of them saying, oh, there's enough ambiguity in the source material, stuff like that. No. So then why did they make the change?
Well, they're always doing it to redheads.
Yeah.
They're always changing. Oh, you're a redhead? Okay, well, now you're either Asian or black.
So, let me do...
But yeah, like, going off those descriptions of Tuon, she seems like...
Yeah, she does. She does.
Really dark, like, Sudanese black would work really well for her character.
Well, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But anyone who's okay with Avienda's change has no justification to have an issue, like a problem, if Tuon's race has changed. Just goes to show you the hypocrisy here.
Yeah, that's the only consistent thing about them, is they're inconsistent.
Yeah, and so then it goes, once again, why did they make the change, okay? They say it's for diversity. They say...
But what's the diversity for?
Well, exactly, this is a fantasy world. Diversity is completely pointless in a fantasy world. But if they say, no, it's to give more black actors chances to act in leading roles. And so...
They make properties that they're in.
There's that. But even if it was to give enough black actors a leading role, the only fair way to do it then is to give the same percentage dispersal of roles as there are to actors in thing. And so if you have a certain percentage of black actors, shouldn't then a certain percentage of the roles go to black actors if that's their push for diversity? So that means you're not disadvantaging any black actors, all right? They get just as much chance to get the acting roles as people of any other racial background, okay? If that's what they're really going for, actual diversity would mean fairness, would it not?
I don't...
Well, that's what I think. That's what it should be. But this is the thing. If that's the case, well, again, I actually don't give a stuff about this because it's a fantasy property. This is their arguments. And if they were being consistent with their own arguments, this is the reality of what it would be. The actual racial makeup of aspiring actors in Hollywood at the moment, 14% are black or African American, and I'm rounding up because it's 59.5, so 60% white. And then you have Hispanic, which is 15.6%, Asian 6%, and there's unknown is 4%.
So in North America, the African American is like the actors are 13%.
14% essentially.
Like they're massively overrepresented in action movies.
Well, this is the thing. If that was the case, if it was about representation, the amount of, if we look at the main cast of Wheel of Time, black people are overrepresented. Like the breakdown of the main characters, okay, Rand, Tom, Moraine, Matt, and Elaine. Like Elaine isn't in yet, but she will be introduced, and the casting has already been announced, and she's the main character. Those are white ones. But then, in terms of people that they cast, changed a lot of them to be black. Egwene, or people of colour, as I say, Egwene, Nynaeve, Perrin, Swan, Avienda, and Tuon won't be cast yet, but like Tuon will be cast as black, of course, right? But even if you cut Tuon, that's 50%, 50%. So according to the statistics of how many actors of their racial background, they're overrepresented already in Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
And so they're not going for diversity.
It's because they have a mandate given to them by the higher ups saying this many brown people, this many white people, this many disabled people.
Mandate, right? This actually contradicts Amazon's standard. So get this. This is from Amazon. All right. Amazon Studio violates their own inclusion policy with this casting, and I double checked this. They actually link to it. So let's look at their inclusion policy, right? And so if we go down this part, right, this is part of their policy: casting actors whose identity gender, gender identity, nationality, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability aligns with the character they will be playing. They will be playing.
Well, clearly not.
So they do this to say that if a character is gay, we'll cast a gay actor, all right? But this shows this is absolute bullcrap, because if it goes the other way, if there is a fair-skinned person, they'll contradict that completely, because it's actually not about having a correct representation. It's about their own agenda and ideology and all that.
Also, inclusivity. They call it an inclusivity thing, right? But your inclusivity for one group is exclusivity for another.
Exactly. By this standard, and what they've done with Avienda, they have excluded a perhaps up-and-coming, talented, get-go actress who was really trying to get the role, who would have fit that role far better. They've excluded that.
Yep.
Right? By giving preferential treatment based on skin tone. Not what the colour... Like, now, this is the thing. When we say this, right, preferential treatment based on skin tone, well, if the original character's description is that, black, white, whatever, you would go with that. That's actually not preferential treatment. That's just being true to the source material, okay? But now that they have actually excluded someone, to change it, they actually hired someone purely based on the colour of their skin against what the source material is. That sounds a little bit racist to me. I'm just...
The left of the real racists?
Funny though.
Find out on Ben Shapiro's podcast.
But it goes to show you that, you know, it's, again, full-on hypocrisy. Now, in terms of the racial makeup, again, this is them making their this argument, all right? If they say, oh, it's not about the actors, it's about reflecting the world, the racial makeup of, you know, the US, basically. That, you know, if there's because the thing, there are black communities in the US, so therefore if you're going to be depicting what they want to be depicted as normal racial diversity, there'll need to be the correct display of black people, white people, Asians, whatever, in that. And so if they wanted to accurately reflect what the real world was like, which that is just a nonsensical argument, because this isn't the real world. But that's the other argument they give. They want, you know, to normalise what the real world racial diversity is in Western countries, okay? And so, all right, if we take that argument that they make and look at the racial breakdown in the US alone, well, guess what? White people, 60%. That's the same as the actors. And black, 12.2%. And so there's actually more black actors than the actual amounts just on a... This is according to the 2020 census, but it's the stats according to 2020, so 2 years ago. Not going to be that much different. But black people comprise 12.2% of the population in the US. So if they actually wanted to reflect what the real world is like, guess what? They're overrepresenting again. And they're excluding other people.
Yep.
They're actually not reflecting what the real world is like. This would be the same as if you wanted to reflect what Africa accurately was like. You would go according to how many, you know, African people are in there. Same with Asians, everything like that. Like, the fact... And again, I don't actually give a stuff. This is their own arguments, and it's showing that the arguments are full of crap. Because the actual execution is an utter contradiction to the excuse that they gave to do it. Full of crap. Absolute full of crap. And it goes to show you that there's a different thing that they're trying to push, and they are actually having a type of bias and preferential casting method, and it's racist. It's blatantly racist on the face of it. According to them, their own standard, flip back on, because the reality is, it shouldn't matter, it's a fantasy world, cast what the characters are in the story. This is the same with, like, Squid Game. I didn't see many white people or black people or anything.
I was watching The Wire the other day, and I was looking at these it's about, like, drugs and police trying to catch them, and there was just too many black gang members. I couldn't relate to any of them. I just didn't understand, like... I come here to reflect, you know, relate to people. I couldn't relate to any of them. But
the people who don't understand sarcasm, they'll just take that soundbite.
Well, good for them. They're retarded.
They are, because that's their own argument. They legitimately, what were they saying about, oh yeah, literally, that was the argument for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
That, you know, people, they won't be able to connect on a personal level with any of the characters unless it reflects their racial background, and so therefore they had to have black people in Lord of the Rings, which is so racist. Yeah. I connected with the main character in Squid Game. He's Korean. Do I look Korean? Okay? Because
I can see it.
I'm not racist. I can connect with other human beings regardless of race because they're humans.
Look, I feel like we play into their hand when you put your hands up and say, I'm not racist.
No.
I like to leave a little chink in my armour so that way they aim for that.
You know
I'm
what?
guarding it.
I'm saying that against them. I don't have this problem, you know why?
Yeah, but they don't care.
But because I'm not racist, but it's implying they're racist because they have that problem. That's
but they also don't care about that. Here's the thing. These people...
They care about...
No, they don't. Trust me. That's the same reason Antifa goes around calling black people the N-word. They don't care if you consider them racist. They don't care if you call yourself not racist to them. They just are on the attack
They actually
constantly.
do care, but they feel... And they know they won't get attacked for their racism. But as soon as they actually get targeted by the larger world, especially on the left, as being racist, their lives get ruined. They care.
Yeah,
they don't want to be... But this is the thing...
How often does that happen, though? My point is, I think we have to shift our framing away from being on the defensive from them and stuff.
Oh, that's right. That was actually an attack. It wasn't a defense of me.
Well,
I was trying to say it in the context...
If you're saying I'm not racist,
if you have an issue... If you have such an issue with the appearance of characters in media to the point that you can't identify with anyone who is not of your own race, you're a racist. That's my point.
Like, why do you think I make racist jokes all the time? Not because I'm concerned about being seen as racist. Because honestly, well, one, if it mattered to me, I'm not. And two, I don't care if you think I am.
I don't know. I don't consider, what...
I think racist jokes break down racial barriers.
No, but to me, when you're like making fun of a stereotype and stuff, I don't consider that actually racist.
Okay.
True racism, is the type of racism that we see on the left, where they actually are prejudging people based on the color of their skin. Yeah. They're treating people differently based on the color of their skin. Thinking people are just literally, they think certain people of certain skin tones have different behavior patterns and everything like that. Just by virtue of their race. Well, that's racist.
Culture brings about behaviour patterns.
They literally believe, this isn't us, we don't think this, but they think black people have trouble with keeping time. What was the thing? There was white supremacy to be on time.
To be polite.
To be polite? Like, holy crap.
Like, have you ever seen a white person working in retail? They are not polite. Or on time.
But that's the thing. That they have those beliefs. That's true racism, but... making fun of a racial stereotype that we know we don't actually believe, and we're doing it in like complete sarcasm, that's not racist at all. And so you shouldn't say that you make racist jokes, because that is also playing into their games.
Well, it's jokes based on race.
But see, racist, and this is the true what racist is judging and treating people different according to the colour of their skin. That's what racism is. Don't buy into the bullcrap that it's about power or anything like that. That it's, someone in power can't, you can't have racist slurs thrown against them, because that's also bullcrap, right? Where it's like, I don't know how they define it. I know how they define it, sorry. I can't express it in words the way that they do because I can't remember. But it's like something plus power.
Power plus prejudice equals racism, yeah.
That's the one, the
thing I don't like, and that's retarded, because here's the thing, right? If that
was the case, like, you couldn't be racist against Barack Obama or Will Smith or anything because they're in power.
No,
they have more privilege and power than us.
Here's the thing, right? I think that they have got it completely mixed, where they see racism as, like, the worst possible thing you can do. Like, let's take an example of things that have happened, right? White cop shoots fleeing black man. The evil thing wasn't he shot him because he was black. The evil thing is that he shot and killed an innocent human being. So let's get our priorities sorted here.
Like that person's life was not of greater value because of their skin tone.
Or less.
Exactly.
And the evil wasn't amplified or made smaller because they did it for one particular characteristic or another. The act itself is evil.
But the reality, you're right. Anyone shot unjustly by police, black or white, is evil and horrible and shouldn't have happened. And the race shouldn't actually play into a part, because if we consider the individual, there'll be equal outcry regardless of skin tone.
Well, just the action. It's, you've done an evil action against an innocent person, regardless of skin colour. Sure, that might be why you did it, but that doesn't matter. It's that you did it. That's important.
Yeah, so anyone who gives preference to or outcry to injustices that happen based on skin tone, that's racist. That's true racism. It's judging and treating people differently based on the colour of their skin. Okay? And so that's the world we're in at the moment, and we see signs of it seeping in everything, almost.
Seeping.
Right?
It's dripping,
right? And Wheel of Time is just another one of those examples, okay? Where it's actually not about diversity, it's not about representation, it's not about reflecting the world, okay? And it's certainly not reflecting or justified in the source material, because this is why the Avienda casting is so important. Any of the defenses appealing to source material in the past does not apply with Avienda, because it's blatant, undeniable of what she's supposed to appear as. So now, we're consistent in our standards from the very beginning, that we were saying reflect the source material accurately, and so our objections are justified based on. And so, if anyone who was trying to defend the previous casting according to source material, what are they going to do now? I'm interested to see.
They're just going to ignore it.
Probably.
And call you racist for bringing it up. That's just what they do, man. That's why I say, haha, I don't care if you call me racist.
Well, it's bullcrap. They're the racists. So, yeah, like I said, interesting. We'll be keeping track of this stuff. It seems like we'll
have no choice. It's keeping track of us.
Yeah. We're one of the few, but we also really love the other guys. You know, Desparu. We're keeping track of what's happening in Wheel of Time.
Those nerd guys you talk to.
Yeah. But they're not as invested in the thing because, like I said, Wheel of Time. The reality is, Wheel of Time is an inconsequential show that's barely getting watched, and making Amazon lose mountains amount of money because it's a crap show. No one's talking about it except people who are particularly invested in it, either because of love for the books or because it's pushing the right politics.
It's a new battlefield for them, so
well,
they'll defend it against anything.
And that's why so many of the people on the left have latched onto it because it's like Batwoman. This is their show.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's also a good thing.
It's their representation.
It's a good thing for us though. At the same time, look at Lord of the Rings. How many people who were like on their side, leaning a little bit over, but like on their side, were like, "What the hell is this?" And they've jumped over.
Oh, it's true. Like
keep doing it.
Extreme feminists have pushed more people away from their ideology in the feminist movement
Yep.
than any other opponent to it ever.
Yep.
Like the people who are trying to push so hard for this ideology and stuff, they're just advertising how toxic it is and pushing people away from it. And so many Wheel of Time fans, I mean, stacks. You know, you can try and delete the White Cloaks subreddit and stuff. You can try and do that. It's not going to get rid of the amount of people that you have now deconverted by your blatant bigotry and racism. Like, it's true. And so keep doing what you're doing. You're burning down your own house, and we'll be there pointing it out as it happens. But also mourn over the desecration and disrespect they do to a great property in the process. But it just goes to show you that you have to always stay watchful.